Boom! Live. What's up, Adam?
Dude, you actually scared me. My mom just texted me. I was texting.
Did she now?
You actually startled me.
Well, say what's up to your mom for me. Tell her that we're live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube right now. What say you with Progress Realty Partners coming at you, like I said, live from our studio broadcast here in Tinton Falls, New Jersey.
Yes, sir.
AKA our office.
Yeah, they look eerily similar, huh?
Yeah, they do look really similar. We do a bang-up job on the production set. Guys, we get questions every week from investors in different parts of the country asking us our opinions, suggestions, different things revolved around commercial real estate investing. So comment with your questions. We'll be happy to answer them. But I know we got 4 teed up for today, Mr. Dickert. 2 for me, 2 for you. That's 2 right. For our buddy Mark down there, who calls me 3 times a day. Mark, you're one persistent son of a gun. I like it.
Calls you more than I do.
But let's just get right into this thing, because we're at that time of the day where, you know, if I don't eat pretty soon, I'm going to get pretty agitated. So
I'm already getting there.
And I know the big fella. I know you do too. So let's jump right into this thing, man.
Let's do it, man. I'm ready.
We got one. I don't know who it's from, but they said, I'm thinking of buying an office building. What should I be most concerned about? So, Adam.
Yeah.
What say you?
So, mystery man, buying an office building. First thing I'd want to know is the age, right? Aside from, you know, doing your due diligence on the financials and making sure everything checks out and your tenant interviews, right? What does that mean?
I'm signing to Mark. I'm talking to Mark.
Oh, okay. You talk to Mark. Aside from all your normal due diligence items, you want to know the age, right? You're buying a building, you're buying an asset, right? You want to make sure your income's there, make sure your tenants are there, or whatever it may be. But you want to know what you're buying physically, right? Get a full-blown list of all CapEx items. That stands for capital expenditures. Any dollar the seller has put into the building in the last 5, 10 years, literally since they've owned it, you want to know what it is, how much they spent, if there's any warranty or guarantee on the work that was done. The last thing you want to buy is a $10 million asset that needs an entire new roof, a whole new parking lot, all new plumbing. It has asbestos on the walls. You have lead paint everywhere. Obviously, it's not allowed anymore. That's a joke. But get a full list of capital expenditure items. That's what I would be concerned about.
That was a good joke, man.
I almost chuckled.
Better answer. Good joke. Better answer. But yeah, old buildings, you got to you got to find out what kind of work's been put into it. I've written before about, Joe Schmo and Ricky Ticky Bobby, who hires the maintenance guy with duct tapes wrapped around his shoes, who's 6 beers deep and half a pack of cigarettes, patching holes with caulking.
You just described my cousin.
Yeah. I think I described a lot of maintenance guys. But make sure the work was done professionally. It was done correctly. Warranties, you got to look into all that kind of stuff. So.
And if you're buying a shithole and you need to get work done, make sure your guy has insurance, for crying out loud. Yeah. Don't get that Joe Schmo.
Yeah, insurance is very important, as they say. All right, what we got?
All right. I guess these are all anonymous. I don't know what the hell's going on here. What's the best way to have tenants stay at your property long-term? Easy answer, free rent. Just kidding. What say you, Dan?
That's right. Free rent for life. They'll be your best friend. No, listen, the best way to retain tenants long term, and it's really a mind shift or a mindset more than like a physical favor. But you have to view your tenants as being your partners at the property. At the end of the day, their success is directly correlated to your success and lack of success. Right. So the better they do as a tenant, the better their business does, the better you're going to be as an owner, because they're going to have customers coming in. They're going to have sales. They're going to be driving traffic to your property. Other tenants, I almost said tenants. Other tenants are going to benefit from the traffic that's coming in from the ones that are doing really well. And the best way to have them, to retain them, have them stay long term, is to really treat it as a partnership and not so much as a landlord and tenant. So, if they ask you for something, if if there's a leak, if there's anything, just stay on top of things, right? Go out of your way to know who they are personally. Not even so much just, Joe, the business owner, or Janet, the business owner. Get to know them on a personal level, get to understand their family, understand, what makes them tick, understand, what they like about being at the property, things that you can maybe do for them that might cost a little bit of money, but ultimately it's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper to do these little favors for them and kind of stay in the forefront than to lose them as a tenant, have to re-tenant the space, pay new leasing commissions, new tenant improvement dollars, everything that comes with bringing in a new person. So just treat them as a partner to your property, not just as a tenant who's paying you rent. And I think that mindset shift will go a long way in retaining, a majority of your tenants long term.
I think what you just said is be a human being.
Yeah, right. It's a human business. Relationships. It's not just with finding properties to buy them with brokers. It's relationships with your tenants and retaining them long term. So, Adam, what are some basic underwriting tips you have for a new investor? I was on the back of my feet and I fell back.
I thought you were having a little seizure or something.
I was busted out in a dance, but I decided otherwise.
All right. So underwriting tips for a new investor, but and for old investors, right? These kind of go back to our basics of conservative underwriting. First things first, you always want to have a vacancy factor. What is that, right? It's a phantom or fake expense that you may not actually have. You're buying a single tenant Chick-fil-A. We're going to put in the vacancy factor, 3% of whatever the gross revenue is. What that does is it's like another phantom expense. It's obviously going to lower your income, but it's a way a bank's going to look at it. Maybe not for a single tenant deal, but especially for multi-tenanted deals, for multifamily, anything at all, include a vacancy factor. Second, you're going to have to go with reserves. Always include reserves. Look at the age of the building, the type of asset it is, the location that it's in, whether you're putting 10 cents a foot, 25 cents a foot, 45 cents a foot in reserves. Again, this does not affect your NOI, but it's effectively what's able to be distributed. This is how we look at assets. How we get our NOI, we include reserves. Another thing is obviously account for a normal management fee, right? People don't do that. I had one. It's actually escaping my head. I had a very good one until I just looked over here somewhere. Taxes.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Taxes, right? You're buying this building from Ricky Ticky Bobby Wobby, Dan's cousin, he mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
The building hasn't sold in 20 years. He's held it for a long, long time. It's obviously appreciated or hopefully appreciated in the last 20 years. People don't realize taxes sometimes get reassessed on a sale, right? That you buy your underwriting for $20,000 of taxes. You buy it for $5 million when previously the appraised value was $2 million. Your taxes are going up to like 50 grand, dude. You're losing $30,000 of income that you are not accounting for. So definitely look into how the taxes are reassessed. Underwrite for that. That's a huge one. That can be a lot of money.
Yeah. Wait, so just to kind of play off what you said, you mentioned a reserve, right? And a vacancy factor. So for someone who doesn't really understand, how much to put for a reserve or what percentage to put for a vacancy factor, what would you put for, let's start with reserve. You mentioned 10, 15, 40 cents. How do you decide how much of reserve you're going to put for a property? What kind of goes into your thinking?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, because obviously you weren't listening, Daniel.
I totally was.
On the asset type, right, with multifamily, maybe you can be a little more conservative if you underwrite for turnover costs, right? Something on a multi-tenanted retail deal that we would buy, middle of the line, maybe not Class A, definitely not dilapidated by any means. You might want to go 25 cents a foot. So if you have a 100,000 square foot shopping center, you want to put $25,000 aside every single year for miscellaneous expenses that pop up. A tree falls down on the building. Granted, insurance might come into play. You want to have extra funds in your pocket, in your bank account for the property, ready to go to pay for unexpected costs. So it really depends on the asset type, the location. Obviously, the condition that it's in is huge. That same retail center we just said, if it's a shithole, maybe 50 cents a foot, maybe a little conservative, but you need the money there. It's going to be an expense.
Right. And what about vacancy? How do you determine what kind of vacancy factor you use? And what do you put a vacancy factor if there are vacancies?
That's a good question. So again, multifamily is, let's assume you're 90% occupied on multifamily. I just pulled it out of my butt, to be honest. It's like a fake number. Maybe you don't include a vacancy factor on that because you already have an actual vacancy of 10%. So why add another 5-6% on a 100% occupied deal? Absolutely, 3, maybe 5%. It really comes down to the location, the market of how much vacancy there is in the area, how much lease up and turnover there is in the area, the condition of the asset. It's something super specific, but generally speaking, I don't know, 3 to 5, maybe even 7% for office, maybe even more.
Cool. All right.
That's a very long-winded answer, Daniel.
Hey, listen, people like detail. Detail. What we got?
All right, Mr. Detail Boy. This guy or woman owns a retail property in Virginia, and their tenant asked if they can host a community event. Virginia is for lovers, don't forget. So they're worried about the insurance risk. Would you let them do it?
So great question. We're all for having community events, right? Because it drives traffic, it gets excitement, it brings people together, puts a lot of eyeballs on your property. What I would say from an insurance risk standpoint, I would call your insurance broker and see, if you do need additional coverage for anything. You may not. I'm not an insurance expert. I have no freaking idea. But if one of our tenants, and this has happened, where they approach us and say, hey, we want to do a trunk or treat for Halloween, or hey, we want to do a Christmas carol, whatever, for Christmas. It's a great idea, right? You want to see it. Your tenants are not only collaborating together, but that they're trying to do things to get their name out in the community and get more eyeballs and traffic driven to your property. So I'm all for community events if you can do them. And if you're worried about the insurance risk, call your insurance provider, call your insurance broker, run the idea by them, see if you would need additional coverage. I think a lot of times, the coverage you would have on your property would typically be sufficient enough. But I don't know if they're planning on selling food or drinks or whatever the case may be. So when you add those different factors into it, you may need some type of additional coverage. But yeah, I think it's a great idea. Just look into if you can do it, and more importantly, if you're covered in the event something were to happen. But all for community events. Let your tenants, do as many events and get involved and drive that traffic to your property as often as they can.
Yeah, and again, we're not insurance experts, but I will say, not insurance related, go to that event. I think you'll find a lot more about the property, about the location, about the tenants, about the community. Probably find out more from going to that event in an hour or two than you probably ever would.
Right? Because you could pop, if there's, obviously there's people at the event, right? You pop around, you ask people from the community, hey, would you come to this property often? Well, what do you like about this property? What do you like about other properties? Where do you typically shop? Right? What's the kind of general feel in the community for this center? Because especially if you live in like a smaller town, right? Everyone already has ideas of properties and what like their persona is, right?
Without even realizing it, right? You don't realize.
Yeah, without real there's a retail center near where I live in Bayville. A food town moved out of that thing, 15 years ago, and everyone still calls it the food town center, right? Because that's like what it's known for. And they've brought in new people and stuff, and there's Facebook groups of people want new tenants to come in and all that kind of stuff. But you get a great kind of general consensus of what the surrounding area thinks of the property. If you go to the event, ask around. Maybe even ask how people think you can improve the property. Tell me you're the owner. Or go toll what's the word, like secretive, covert. Go covert and pretend like you're not even the owner. Just start asking questions.
Especially if there's vacancies. You're literally taking a live poll of what kind of tenants can I bring in? How do we do this? What would you suggest this? Just go to the event, man.
I tell you, that's a great idea too that you just mentioned, because if you do have vacancies, having some type of community event is a great way to get eyeballs on your space and to get people who may have business ideas and ventures to be at your property, and you can get a lot of exposure that way. So great idea. I'm glad you brought that up.
Ask your insurance broker first.
Yeah, ask your insurance broker. Definitely don't ask Adam or I.
Nah.
Ask your insurance broker.
Yeah.
But all right, guys, that's it. It's 12:38 Eastern Standard Time, and now it's time for Adam and I to eat a little lunch.
Big lunch.
Big
lunch, not little lunch.
Oh, big lunch today? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was this week's What Say You with Progress Realty Partners. Do not forget, I got to remind you about this one. If you're interested in investing in commercial real estate where you get dependable cash flow, direct ownership, and the best part of all, you're 100% passive, so you can go hang out with the family, ignore the family, go hang out with your buddies, your girlfriends, whoever you want, whatever it is that it would free up more time for you to do, and you're interested, check out our website, prp.us. If you ever need debt, anything commercial real estate related, if you're not talking to the guys at Progress Capital, you like losing money. You like just like paying more for mortgages and stuff. So anyway, thanks guys. I'm Dan.
I'm Adam. Adios, people. Thanks for watching.
Adios.